Alright, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. I'm going to do some late fall preparation, kind of pruning on a few of my microcarpa today. Some of these guys are not in a playlist. This one is. I just added this one to a playlist this morning. I only have 2 other videos on it. It's a root over rock. I had it in a little terracotta pot. I had one video with it still in there where I was still letting it grow way out. And then the video where I repotted it into this one. Those are the only 2 videos I've got on it. But I'm also going to work on a couple other small ones that I just don't have a playlist for, or may have forgotten what playlist I actually have it in. Ever since the hurricane, everything's kind of a bit of a blur, just putting things together and everything. I'm going to kind of clean out. I mean, like you can see, this guy here has got a bunch of yellow leaves. Just losing some because it's getting a lot less light this time of year. So I'm just going to go on through, pull some of those out, pull off some of the bigger, older ones in there, trim off any unwanted branches, and I'm going to do, the other trees too, just because none of this is really going to take all that long, but kind of get a look and some thoughts on what I might be able to do next spring with some of these. I've been trying to let them grow out some since I haven't really had time to make all that many videos. We'll go ahead and just kind of remind you guys that I'm in Florida. I do see a lot of people that will do things like this when they go to bring them inside. This would be the time, I imagine maybe people in Alabama or Georgia might be bringing their trees in. I don't really know if they've had any freezes yet. If I had this tree up north, I'd probably bring it in when the lows started getting around 50 or so. Although, like all of my trees have pretty much seen as low as 39, some of them 37, depending on how long I've had them. It really does slow them down a bit, but for us, the next couple days, it'll be right back up to 70 and sunny the next day, so it doesn't seem to bother them permanently. The first thing I did notice on this tree today, I have it on, this one's on a pallet, and then underneath the pallet, I have it sitting on some weed fabric, and see where it's just kind of, it weaved its way. There's the bend of the pallet, weaved its way around the pallet, or around the slat in the pallet, and then just kind of grew into that weed fabric. And take that off. But as I go through these, I'm going to try to not talk very much. I'll be pruning off all the downward facing branches. And again, just defoliating some of the interior stuff. Maybe try to find some peaceful music for you guys. And just work my way through some of these. Alright, then we got this guy here. This one I do have in a playlist. Had a really rough hurricane. It's amazing, this one didn't move around in the hurricane at all, being in this heavy rock pot. But it's amazing how some of the ones that actually got spilled and tumbled over and up against the house or in, upside down in the grass fared better than some of the ones that stood up to it. So I really haven't done anything to it for over a year now. Put it in this rock. The planting area in this rock is about that big, this big, and only about that wide. You guys can see it there. And it had a good strong root over here. I kind of wanted to see if I could make a little bit of a banyan style look in the rock, which I think would be interesting. But all this growth over here is starting to look a little bit burlish. You guys will be able to see as I trim. And again, I'm just going to do the same thing I did with that other tree. All right, and then this little guy here, give you a good idea how big it is there with my hand. Not quite as big of a cutting as some of the other ones, but no really big chop mark. There's a chop mark here. That's actually repotted this about my third or fourth video ever. So it's been about 3 years. Probably due for a new pot this spring. I'm half tempted to even repot it now. It looks really healthy, but I might as well wait until the right time of year. I'm in no hurry. All the growth on this side here on the back. This would be the back, obviously. There is this bottom branch here. I've been keeping that as a sacrifice. That'll probably come off this spring, if I repot it this spring, if I have the time. All right, and how about this guy? This guy was actually, I had just discovered how big of a cutting I could actually take. And what I did was I actually took this and I put it directly into a little decorative pot. And I don't really know why. It wasn't really all that small or anything, but for some reason it just never really liked that pot. And so I put it in here. It's doing a lot better. One thing I did notice, and that I'm gonna have to take care of right now, I think, is I've got two aerial roots just exploding out of the trunk. They're kind of cool, but they're crossing each other. And I did like a little test outside, and I can't pull one of them up without disturbing the other one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just cut one of them off and try to leave the other one, see if I can't just let it grow, maybe become a feature on this tree one day. But I definitely didn't want them in there crossing each other. Haven't done anything to it since the pot moved, so good and healthy, nice and big leaves. Still has, the one thing about having a cutting this big is it still does have a huge chop scar to heal there. We'll see how that goes over time though. Alright, and finally we got this guy here. I think it's going to be the last one I do today. This wire's been all there all summer. It was one of the trees that was kind of one of the quote-unquote victims of just too much sun, not enough rain early this spring. So I have left it alone for quite a while. Since sometimes getting the wire off does start to damage some of the branches and leaves, I'm going to go ahead and do that first, and then go ahead and decide what I'm going to do with everything else. I think every other tree I've done today, I've taken pretty good care in trying to not get too many growing tips of any of the branches I wanted to keep. This one, I do believe I'm going to go ahead and get some of these outer growing tips. Try to let the apex go a little more, in that I did want a little bit of a wider tree at one point. Alright, somewhere in there, just as I was starting to take the wire off, batteries died on me again. But I was trying to explain that this was actually a cutting that I took off of a tree that I decided I wanted to cut back a little bit further, and I already had some of these secondary branches on there. So when I took it as a cutting, it wasn't just a little chunk. All these branches were, like I said, already there. Looking nice and healthy now.